I'm Angela Kennecke, your host of Grieving Out Loud. This fall, I stood on the National Mall in Washington, D.C., surrounded by 4,000 tombstones, each one marking a life stolen by substances. The Trail of Truth aimed to shine a light on our country's fentanyl and substance use disorder epidemic and urged lawmakers to finally pay attention. But it wasn't just an event. It felt like walking through a sea of grief, each stone carrying a story like my own. I was honored to be asked to speak at the event, but what left the deepest mark was meeting so many other mothers, fathers, siblings, and friends who refused to let their loved ones be forgotten. Some of them are here with me on this podcast to share their voices and their fight for change.
I am Stone's voice, and I do this for him so that others won't feel the loss of their baby.
Why do you come to an event like this?
So I really want to put his name as anywhere I can. I miss him so much every day. And it's just not fair. Everything that he's missing, and I know the person that he was capable of being.
In this episode, you'll hear from people who know firsthand what it's like to love someone battling substance use disorder. They share the frustration of trying to get help, the fear that never really goes away, and in some cases, the pain of losing someone they loved.
This is our hell on earth, and we don't want others to keep experiencing this. And if we can get a grip on this, help people, that's what we need to do.
These are raw, honest stories, but that's why they matter. Because the more we talk about this disease, the less power, shame, and stigma have to keep people from reaching out for help.
I always tell people, they need praise. They already feel so bad about themselves.
Right.
I mean, I just think even as an adult, I'm 50 years old, and for me to tell someone, hey, I'm feeling shame, it's hard for me.
Yeah.
Can you imagine someone that's a youth and they're struggling with addiction? They already feel so low.
Before we start this powerful conversation, I do want to take a moment to talk to anyone suffering from substance use disorder or those who have a loved one battling the disease. Please hear me when I say this. You are not alone. Help is out there. Don't wait. Your life matters. We've put together a list of helpful resources on our website, emilyshope.charity. You can find a link in the show notes. One of the first people I sat down with was Tanya Doucette from Louisiana. She lost her son Trey during the pandemic. He was just 21, the same age as my daughter Emily when fentanyl took her life.
So Trey was big personality. He's my firstborn, my little best friend. I always say we grew up together. I had him when I was 24. And he didn't know a stranger. We'd go somewhere and people would look at him and literally would say, you're going to be famous one day. And he never wanted attention on himself, and he would just kind of look at people. It was so funny. Every time we went anywhere, somebody would say that to him. It was crazy. So by the time he was 8 years old, he was already a skateboard pro. They called him Little Pro in our area.
So he was really a risk taker, adventurer.
Yeah.
Tanya also remembers how much Trey loved art. He could sketch just about anything. He was also a devoted big brother. But as he moved into middle school, Tanya began to notice he was struggling.
His biological father was never in the picture for good reasons. And whenever he was 11 years old, I was actually about to move to Texas because I am from Louisiana. And the biological found out and just, I guess to be kind of cruel, just said, oh, okay, I want custody. And my son had never even stayed the night at his house or anything. The judge did award him every other weekend. The first weekend he was there, his stepmother gave him a Bud Light with lime and a dip. And he came home horrified, scared to death.
How old was he?
He was 11.
He was given alcohol at age 11.
The first night he was there. Bud Light with lime and a dip. So he came home terrified, and we were still going through a custody battle. All I could do was just talk to my attorney about it. We had to let him keep going. So eventually, I guess about 6 or 7 months after, he just came home one day and he was like, Mama, please don't make me ever go again. I'm like, that's all I had to hear. I don't care if they put me in jail. You're not going back.
Trey's challenges didn't stop there. When he was 15, Tanya says she discovered marijuana hidden in his room. She immediately started searching for help. You were concerned about the marijuana.
Oh, yes, I was.
I had the same thing with Emily, where I found out she was smoking marijuana, and some people would be like, well, why'd you get so alarmed at 15, 16? But I knew it wasn't for the developing brain, and I knew it could only lead to worse things. And quite frankly, Emily's dad suffers from substance use disorder, so I knew it was in her family. And also we had some of those same kind of like visitation custody type issues and things that were going on that I didn't think were good at the other home. And so I really can feel for what you're saying because, the parents have so many rights. Parents have so many rights. And so the dad, who may or may not be, a good influence or have a good home or has so many rights. And as a mom, when you see things going on that you don't agree with and you're really concerned for the safety and well-being of your child, you don't have a lot of recourse. And any recourse that you do have, they make it so difficult.
Absolutely. Yes. It is very hard, especially when you know what's going on over there. And when the court's involved and there's papers, you're helpless as a mom. And, and especially when your child doesn't want to be there anymore or doesn't want to go to that other home.
Yeah. So you found the marijuana and then you're trying to do something about it. And what were you able to do?
So I finally found, it took me forever to find at least one rehab that took youth back then. And it was a rehab that was about 3 hours away. And he was willing to go. That's when he opened up and told me everything. And that's when he told me the stepmom would make brownies with marijuana and say, okay, I'm leaving them on the counter. I'm going to bed. I won't see you eat them. So he said he was scared. He refused. And then eventually he just did it. And then eventually they started smoking marijuana with him, which is horrifying.
Well, and my daughter, same thing. A boyfriend's mother smoked marijuana with them that one of her friends told me about. That's how I found out about it. So it's, I found out about it, hearsay, but I was horrified and super alarmed and trying everything I could. I tried taking her to counselors. I tried, invoking the law, all of the things, anything I could do to try to stop this.
And you mentioned earlier about addiction runs in the family. That's what we had. And so, yes, I was terrified of knowing for youth, their development of their brain is not ready for all this.
Right.
And I was terrified because I sure didn't want that to happen to him, So we go to a rehab, we get there, and they call me in a week and say, you have to come pick him up because the insurance won't pay for him to be here because it's only marijuana. And
so
I'm like,
insurance
wow.
dictated that he couldn't stay.
Yes. So, a lot of money, we kept him in and I paid for like 2 weeks, in which a single mom's really hard to pay, Back then it was like about $600 a day back then. So get out. And so we just tried different things, because Trey, he didn't want to be that way. He realized that he couldn't stop. It was okay when he was doing them. He's like, wait, I can't stop. And then me as a mom, like, why can't you stop? We have to figure this out. We got to figure out what's going on. So his doctor actually knew a lot about the disease of addiction. And he referred us to someone in an IOP where we are in our town, which is wonderful. I still go today as a parent. There's one day a week for parents. And I'm the only one there left that's lost someone. Because I still need that therapy and that fellowship for all this. But he struggled. He went in and out of rehabs. School was a big trigger for him. And when he went to school, because there were so many drugs at school, there was just the whole process of it was just so long. And so we ended up finding a situation where he could homeschool, but still be around other people. So he finished school and then he would be clean for a while. And then he would fall back and then he got in Xanax.
That's what same trajectory as Emily.
Exactly.
Went from marijuana to Xanax, and that's what I knew about. But at some point, she switched to opioids, and I don't know if it was directly to heroin or if there were, probably some pills in between that.
Right,
I just don't know because, at the time she died, she was 21 and she wasn't telling me because they're ashamed.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's what I always tell people. Like, they need praise and they already feel so bad about themselves.
Right.
I mean, I just think even as an adult, I'm 50 years old. And for me to tell someone, hey, I'm feeling shame, it's hard for me.
Yeah.
Can you imagine someone that's a youth and they're struggling with addiction? They already feel so low and feel their self-esteem is so low.
Are you ready to protect the next generation from the dangers of substance use? Emily's Hope has created a comprehensive K-12 substance use prevention curriculum designed to educate, empower, and equip students with the tools they need to make healthy choices. Our age-appropriate lessons start in kindergarten and build through high school, using science, real stories, and interactive learning to help kids understand their bodies, brains, and risk of drug use. We're already reaching thousands of students across multiple states, and we're just getting started. Visit emilyshopeedu.org to learn more and share our curriculum with your school administrators and counselors. At Emily's Hope, we believe prevention begins with education. Let's work together to keep our kids safe. Tanya threw herself into learning everything she could about substance use disorder and how to help her son. But as she quickly realized, the disease is incredibly complex. Trey would find recovery at times only to relapse again. And through it all, Tanya did her best to walk beside him every step of the way.
It was a constant thing. And then I found out and it was almost like it was a relief. Okay, Mom, you found out. Then I'm going to tell you all about it. He would tell me everything. Then it was pills. And then eventually, I mean, he would see someone, we've lost people that we know that lost their life with heroin. And he was like, Mom, I would never do that. That's something I would never do. It eventually got that way. Someone tricked them with a pill. They crushed it or something and they sniffed and had heroin in it. So then he's addicted to heroin.
Honestly, I think that no one ever sets out to become a heroin user, right? They graduate, or eventually it gets to the point where that's the easiest thing for them to get and the cheapest thing for them to get. And now we know that there really isn't much heroin out there at all.
Right.
It's all fentanyl.
That's right. And a lot of times they don't even know. Like,
Right.
They have no idea what they're getting, and then they're hooked on that. And
Right.
It's a whole other ball game too.
That was the heartbreaking reality for Don Carpenter's son, Stone, who died when he was only 18. I also met the Missouri woman at the Trail of Truth.
He was an incredible young man. He was always a hard worker and fought for what he wanted. When he was little, he ended up having tubes in his ears and speech delays. And even with that, being a toddler into grade school, he worked hard at his speech therapy. He was always working hard. He always tried to be better. He always cared about everyone. He was so kind. He was my child that would, if he saw someone homeless out and about, we need to help him, Mom. What can we do? He was very talented, artistic, just wonderful. My baby.
What I hear you saying is a sensitive soul.
Yes.
And so many of our kids were really sensitive.
Yes.
That we've lost.
Sensitive, artistic, empathetic.
Dawn believes her son's struggles with substances began in high school after 2 surgeries, one for a shoulder injury and another for an emergency appendectomy. Each time, Stone was sent home with prescription pain medication. This is a story that I have heard over and over again from parents whose kids got addicted after being prescribed an opioid.
Yeah.
And did you know that he was addicted? Did you know he was seeking pills online?
No, but in the same breath, I knew he was experimenting with marijuana.
Yeah.
And where, yes, I had awareness of street drugs and the dangers there, I had no idea anyone was putting poison in pills or, pressing them to look like prescription pills. We never had those talks. Don't take pills from someone you don't know where it came from. We never had those talks.
Too many families know this pain, a pill that looks real, but is not. Counterfeit pills laced with fentanyl are flooding our country, and they're killing kids who think they're taking a Xanax or a Percocet. That was the case for Stone. What he thought was a Percocet ended up being fentanyl, and he died right in his own home.
In our apartment, in our living room on the couch. I came home from work, and it was too late. He was gone. Even if I would have had Narcan, it was too late.
I know. And you never expect anything like that to happen. I mean, you're not ever prepared for walking into your house in your living room and finding your child.
No. Nothing can prepare you for that.
And I know that it haunts you every day because I was in my daughter's apartment, when EMTs were working on her and after her death. And it's just something that you think about every day and you never get over.
No, it will be with us for the rest of our lives.
And tell me about the work that you're doing out here today, why you're doing that.
We do this so other mothers, fathers, families will not know our pain. You know this. This is why we do this, because this is our hell on earth, and we don't want others to keep experiencing this. And if we can get a grip on this, help people, that's what we need to do.
What has all of this taught you? And I don't just mean Stone's death. I mean, like, the work that you're doing now, everything that you've been through. What do you take away from all this, Dawn?
The stigma is choking our efforts. That if we could just have open, honest conversations about grief, about drugs, about mental health, that could change a lot.
That's why we do this podcast, Dawn. That's why we do it. And I'm with you. Stigma is killing people.
Yeah.
And it's causing families to have shame in the shadows.
Correct.
Right. Well, I'm so grateful that you shared Stone's story with us.
Oh, thank you for asking.
Yeah, and that you're doing this work. And I'm so very sorry.
And I'm sorry for your loss. I mean, loss is horrific. When we lose our children, when we have out-of-order deaths, it's unnatural.
Yeah. And it's senseless. It seems senseless, right?
Yeah, it's purposeful. They're purposefully putting poison to look like prescription pills. That's deceitful.
Yes.
They're not saying this is a pill that looks like Percocet, that is fentanyl, that could kill you. They don't sell them like that. They just say this is a Percocet.
And it's murder.
Yes.
It's murder.
Yeah.
And the victim often gets blamed because they were seeking out a drug.
Correct.
But they weren't signing up to be killed.
Correct. Yep. It's not that they were taking too much of anything.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add about Stone or about being out here or this event or anything at all?
I know he would be proud of me and everything that we're doing. He always wanted to help people. Always just had a huge heart. And he would be part of something like this. If he lost his brother, he would be out here screaming to everyone, look, this is what happened to my brother. So I am Stone's voice. And I do this for him so that others won't feel the loss of their baby.
And that's exactly what brought Tanya to Washington, D.C. as well. When Trey was 18, he moved out of the house and in with a family friend.
He lived with the lady that was kind of like a grandmother to him, but she let drugs in and out of her home. And found out
out
he
of
had
your home because you didn't allow it.
Right.
That's why Emily moved out of my house, because I would be, looking and catching and trying to stop.
Right.
And so she moved out of my house and in with, her dad.
Yeah. So many similar
she
stories.
was allowed to just come and go and do what she pleased.
And that's how this lady was. She wasn't blood related, but she was, at one time really close to us, but that was like her grandson. And to keep him there, she allowed all this stuff to go on. And so her neighbor was a client of mine, and she would watch. And she calls me one day, and it was August 15th of 2019, I think it was. And she asked me, she said, "Is Trey okay?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And she sent me a picture. And there was all around that house, all the roads were shut down, fire trucks, everything was there. There was tents in the front yard. And I kept trying to call his phone. He wouldn't answer. And I kept trying to call the woman, and she wouldn't answer. And finally she did. And I said, "Is Trey okay?" She said, "No." And they would bring him to the hospital. So went straight to the hospital. And he woke up, everything. And he just looked at me. He's like, "Mama, I've been praying. I just don't want to be like this anymore."
Trey had overdosed, but this time he was revived. Tanya says that close call shook him. Her son was truly ready to fight for his life and commit to getting help.
To try to get him off the heroin, we went to the methadone clinic, and we did all the things that way. Any way we could do it for his journey, whatever it was to get him to where he needed to be. He hated being that way. It was something that he knew it was like, it was so hard for him. So at that point, I was so desperate. I actually went to the sheriff with a friend of mine that was an attorney and begged them. I had a picture of a few pills in that house. I went and that's all I had. And I was like, "Can you please help me arrest him? He needs help." So they did. They helped me arrest him. The judge was on board and everything. He never knew. No one ever knew. And then they said a long-term rehab. So that changed his life. It really did. He went to a long-term rehab.
So he was 18 at this point?
He was 18. Yes, ma'am. He went to a 12-month rehab. We let him stay in jail for 2 months, though. I was like, let him take the feel of it, and then transferred him to a long-term rehab.
In October of 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic, Trey graduated from the program and came home to live with Tanya. For the first time in a long while, things felt like they were finally looking up.
He felt so good being sober. He was so proud of himself, and his brothers had him back. I had my son back, as I don't know. For me, I could always tell when he was on something, it just wasn't my son. I could see his eyes again, like the light in his eyes, his real eyes. I always, just amazing. But so he was starting a new job, and it was a Monday morning, and Sunday night we had went and bought clothes for him that weekend. He was excited, and I went to go wake him up the next morning, and I found him in his bed. So it was the week of Thanksgiving, and so I have a friend that works at the coroner's office, and we didn't know what happened. I just felt like, man, it has to be something with fentanyl, because he was gone, and a lot of that was coming through our town. And then my friend that works at the coroner's office, I called her once, and she said it was a pill that was made in our town. It was a batch, and it was full of fentanyl. So that one pill would kill a whole room of people.
And he had only been home for a month?
About a month and a half, yeah. And by his phone, we had his phone. And for 5 weeks, there was a friend that, and I told him, I was like, when you come home, baby, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be reaching out. He's like, "I know." And he, I was scared to kind of look at those messages. I didn't know what I would see, but I'm glad I did. And because there would be people that reach out and try and get him to get back in it. And he would just tell them, "It's not worth it. I'm praying for you." And they wouldn't harass him with it. And they would just kind of talk after that, except one person. And the first 2 weeks, this little guy would ask him if he wanted to buy some. Nope. Third and fourth week, "Hey, will you help me move some?" Nope. The fifth week, "Hey, can you come hold them for me? My girlfriend can't know I have them." He went and got them. Held them for a day, and then that's when so that's it. And I always say you'll never know if it's in front of you. They're either going to use or they're going to get rid of it.
Right.
So that's his story.
Well, and I think it's so scarring for parents also to find their children in this way.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, obviously, it's true for my daughter. She was alone in her room. I've talked to so many parents who have found their child. And that type of trauma and pain, it's debilitating.
It really is. It's been almost 5 years, and the PTSD is so, obviously it's not as bad as it was, but every time I close my eyes, that's exactly what I would see. And for the longest time. So I literally, for me, I just have to watch TV every night until I go to sleep, because if I close my eyes still, I can, and it, so yeah, it's a hard work to work on getting the PTSD, getting through that. Plus, that's a whole other thing for me, was finding him, going through that, and then, of course, not having him here.
As one of the nation's strongest financial organizations, First Premier Bank and Premier Bank Card have the strength to do good. We support nearly 700 organizations and nonprofits. Our employees give more than 30,000 volunteer hours annually. And we are continually seeking ways to make South Dakota an even better place to live. It's the Premier way. First Premier Bank and Premier Bank Card.
Grief doesn't follow a straight line. It looks different for everyone. And it can feel even more complicated when you've loved someone through the ups and downs of substance use disorder. One woman I met, Ingrid, told me she lost her dad to addiction long before his death. Throughout much of her childhood and young adulthood, Ingrid's dad struggled with heroin addiction.
My grieving part of it is the fact that I never really got to know him outside of the drugs. I just missed that moment. So during his life, I would always be wishing and praying for that moment when we would just have fun without that part of him. That was the negative. The positive, it led me into a career that is always helping people and in a mentor capacity to be able to affect people with drugs or any type of social issue. So it did push me in that direction.
Now Ingrid wants to be a light for others who feel alone in their journey. She hopes that by speaking out, she can break the silence around substance use disorder and remind people they're not in this fight alone.
For youth that's coming through this, I think it's just good for them to know that, because when my dad passed and I went through his things and everything, I knew just from going through his things and the care that he put on things that related to me, that he really did love me, even though he had his illness, and that some younger people need to recognize that that's an illness. It is no reflection of their love or their care for them.
The next person I interviewed in Washington, D.C. had similar experiences with her brother. Crystal Dougherty from Baltimore lost her younger brother Gary at 37 after a battle with substance use disorder that went on for years.
He was so creative. He loved sports. He loved Baltimore. He was huge about Baltimore, which I don't understand. But he loved the Orioles, Ravens. He would be able to tell you their stats like nothing. Wears his heart on his sleeve. He was very good looking. Girls were crazy over him. He was very capable of many things that, unfortunately, the disease came in front of.
From the time he was little, Gary loved and played sports: baseball, basketball, soccer, lacrosse, and football. But Crystal says when he started experimenting with marijuana as a young teen, it set him on a different path.
It was kind of rocky. We're 6 years apart, so I've always kind of been like a mother to him.
Where was your mom?
So my mom was there, and she was, I hate to say this, but she was kind of done raising him in his teen years when she shouldn't have been, but she's always been right behind him no matter what. So even when he was in his addiction days, my mom was, if he was on the street, she was trying to make sure he had food and trying to bring him home to my house a lot. I was a single mom of 2 kids. So my mom came to live with me at one point, and actually before she came, my brother lived with me, and then it got a little crazy, and then my mom came to live with me, and Gary, I would have to throw him out because he was in his bad parts of his addiction.
Crystal says her brother was already at high risk since addiction runs in their family. Starting drugs so young only made things worse. Research shows early use can harm the developing brain and raise the chances of substance use disorder.
And so you kind of had this relationship with Gary where you're trying to help him. I'm sure he's resisting, and you're a sister. You're not his mom.
Exactly.
So were there times where you were close and then times where you were fighting about this?
Definitely. There were many times that I've made him leave my property. I was divorced due to addiction as well. My ex-husband was an addict, and I did not want to raise my kids with him as an addict, but my kids still lived that life because of my brother.
They saw it. Mm-hmm. How disruptive is this to families, this substance use disorder? And it affects millions of people.
It does. It's unreal. I mean, he steals from us. You know, my son is 30 now, but my son he can't stand my brother. And because he stole from him, he saw how bad, like we lost my mom to cancer in 2015. And my brother was actually stealing my mom's medicine when she was on hospice in my house. So it got really bad at many times. And we just kept thinking, when is he going to hit rock bottom?
Well, we know what rock bottom is. It's death.
Yeah. He knew. He was in and out of jails. So when he was in jail, if my mom was alive, my mom would be the one putting the funds on. But when my mom passed, it was me. His ex-wife actually is 9 years sober, and they have 2 kids together.
Gary's?
Yes.
So Gary left behind an ex-wife and 2 kids.
Correct. And she's helped my brother tremendously. He came out of a jail. She got him put into a program in Delaware that was phenomenal.
Did Gary ever confide in you about why he used drugs or what he thought of his own addiction?
No, he never got that deep. He came to visit one time after my mom had passed, and he was clean for a little while, and he said he needed to apologize to me. I was taking him back to the train station to go back to Delaware, and he apologized. He said he kicked my dog for stealing from us, like all that type of stuff, but he never really went into how.
While Gary would find moments of recovery, his battle with substance use disorder ultimately took his life. He passed away in 2022 after using cocaine laced with fentanyl.
Is your grief complicated because of your complicated relationship with your brother?
It is, because I spent a lot of time angry, so angry at my brother. And actually, my ex-husband has passed as well, and I spent a lot of time angry at him. So it's very up and down. But I am very sad. I'm sad that he's missing so much. My daughter has had 2 children. My brother has missed that. And I'll tell you one thing. I'm very thankful that my mom passed before my brother, because she would have never made it through losing my brother.
Why do you come to an event like this?
So I really want to put his name as anywhere I can. I miss him so much every day. And sorry. It's just not fair, everything that he's missing. And I know the person that he was capable of being. And I just want to make sure his name is out there. So I found out about the Trail of Truth through the Delaware group that I go to. They have a Delaware Overdose Awareness Day that I attend and put signs for him. And I made sure he was in the Trail of Truth. And this year, it's our 3rd year without him. And it's my 1st year that I felt emotionally okay to attend.
Yeah. And why is it so important that his name and his face be part of this?
Because he is a person outside of the addiction. Like, that's not how he's defined.
Yeah.
And he just, it needs to be known.
In addition to the event, some of those I met have turned their pain into purpose by starting their own organizations. If you'd like to learn more about mine, Emily's Hope, please go to emilyshope.charity. I'll also provide a link in the show notes. Our next guest, Sabrina Wiffler from Warrenton, Missouri, did the same. Her oldest son battled heroin addiction, but has now been in recovery for more than 14 years. Still, Sabrina knows the heartbreak of loss. Her nephew Christopher died nearly 14 years ago from a heroin overdose.
He's a great kid. You know, sometimes they get mixed up in the wrong things, wrong people, and things happen. It's sad to say, but with all of that and my son, and I've met so many people along the way doing what we do. That's why we started the group out doing all kinds of different things over the last so many years and getting the word out there of what can and does happen.
What does Enough is Enough do?
Well, we got a lot of things that we do, but right now our big thing that we have is we have 850 crosses, all with a name, a face, and an age of somebody that has passed to some form of drug death. And what we tell people when they look at that and see the display set up, we lose more than that on a 3-day holiday weekend. And so if they look at that visual and understand what that really entails, it's a shocking reality.
Do you think it's making a difference?
I hope so.
Sabrina told me being at the Trail of Truth gave her another chance to speak out, to raise awareness about the opioid crisis, and maybe save someone else's life. As we close this episode, we return to Tanya. Despite her grief, she's leaving Washington, D.C. with a renewed sense of purpose and the hope that by sharing her story, she can help bring change and keep other families from experiencing the same heartbreak.
To be out here, I'm going to just tell you this. When you see another mom, like I look at you, it's like, even though we don't know each other, we know each other, right? So that's how I feel. We all know what each other's feeling. We already feel like a family. And it's healing. It is healing for me to be around other parents, to be around in these organizations that we're all fighting for the same thing. If we could save a life, that's all that matters.
We all feel the same way.
Mm-hmm.
If just one parent is spared this kind of pain and agony, we all feel that way, right? Because we can't bring our children back.
Nope.
Being out here and being part of this advocacy doesn't bring our kids back, but hopefully it stops the death of another child.
That's right. That's what I always say. If it's one person at a time, if that's what it is, even if it's one person, we're doing our job.
Right.
So,
right. Well, I'm so sorry for the loss of Trey, and thank you for sharing.
And I'm sorry for your loss of Emily, and I thank you for what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you for sharing his story with us.
I want to thank you for listening to this special episode of Grieving Out Loud. If you'd like to hear my speech from Trail of Truth, I've shared it in a blog post on our website. You can find a link in the show notes. While you're there, we'd appreciate it if you take a moment to rate and review this episode. It truly gets it out to more people when you do that. And also share it with your family and friends. Together we can raise awareness and hopefully save lives. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, wishing you faith, hope, and courage. This podcast is produced by Casey Monenberg King, Michael Guerin, and Kaylee Fitz. Have you lost a loved one to overdose or fentanyl poisoning? I'd like to invite you to share their story on our new Emily's Hope Memorial website called More Than Just a Number. They were our children, siblings, cousins, husbands, wives, aunts, uncles, and friends. So much more than just a number. You can submit a memorial today on morethanjustanumber.org.